If you had bought every single one of 54 shares listed on the AltX, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange's alternative exchange, since 2004, your return would have been something like 30.8% per annum. The AltX has in fact been an amazing success, and today our guest is Noah Greenhill, who has been the primary driver of the AltX. Noah is the marketing and business development officer of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Noah, you must be quite pleased with the way things have evolved since 2004.
David, my normal response to that kind of thing is, yeah, absolutely ecstatic, but never satisfied.
Investment markets have been absolutely superb worldwide, and it's almost to be expected that AltX would outperform. But did you foresee this?
Difficult to say. A couple of years ago when we launched AltX and we were talking to companies, a lot of guys had what I kind of call 18-month crisis, and they were waiting for that magic 18 months before they listed. But success breeds success. Quality companies start coming through the doors. All of a sudden, guys are going, it makes sense to do that. Let's explore that avenue. So, could we foresee the number and quality of companies? There's no ways.
And when you started off, though, there was a bit of a hangover from the development capital and the venture capital market in the past. As a result, you put quite a serious health warning on every single prospectus.
Yep.
Do you remember the wording? How does it go?
The JSE does not guarantee the investment, something to that effect. I can't remember the exact, but it was a long warning.
Quite a startling thing for any investor to pick up the prospectus and see this.
Absolutely.
And in the meantime, a whole lot of companies have doubled in value.
Yep.
In fact, only last week, Protec Kutela listed at 200, and it was actually floated at 100, so it's 100% gain in the first day.
Although Protec is a main board company, so I wouldn't have had that warning.
Yeah,
but the interesting thing is that we've now scaled down that warning, and in fact, companies that have listed on AltX for a period of a year do not have to carry that warning anymore at all.
Is that so? I mean, I just wonder if that's a bit incautious, given that maybe the investment markets are turning as we speak.
Again, I don't think it matters whether it's an AltX company or a main board company. You've got to do your fundamental analysis or whatever investment philosophy you use, and make your buying decision.
Why was this a more successful exchange than development capital and venture capital? What was the difference?
I think that there was a lot more marketing, sales, and customer relationship, a philosophy around those three things. Whereas with the VCM and the DCM, we launched them in 1985 and 1989 respectively, and we said, we've got a product for you. If you meet the requirements, list. If you don't meet the requirements, well, thank you very much for coming. Off you go.
Have you been more stringent in scrutinizing companies listing on AltX?
There's no question, David. The quality controls that we put into place on AltX, like the AltX Advisory Committee, like the role and responsibilities of the designated advisor. And the third one is the directed induction program.
So tell me, if I want to list on AltX, what's the procedure? Who do I have to get?
Normally what happens,
hurdles I have to get over?
Okay, so normally what happens is the guys will phone us, we'll go and see the company, we'll get a good feel for the company, we'll then introduce the guys to one of our designated advisors. If the designated advisors like the business, they'll then sign a mandate with that business, and they then present the business in the form of a business plan to the AltX Advisory Committee. Role of the Advisory Committee is merely to assess the suitability of that company for a listing on AltX. It's not to take a quality decision. There have been times when we've sat around the advisory committee where guys have said, look, I wouldn't invest in this company, but they're a good candidate for a listing on AltX. Post that, the company then submits the formal application to the listings division of the JSE for a listing on AltX. And then the company lists.
Would you say that one or two sponsors, such as exchange sponsors, have they dominated the whole Altex new listing process? And if so, why is that?
I think certainly one of the things when we established Altex was to create a cottage industry around Altex. By that I mean guys that start to specialize in the nature and size of company that comes to Altex. I think exchange sponsors bought that philosophy early on. And they're dominating so far. Doesn't mean that the other advisors are not coming to market with quality companies.
And would you say that progress of the market so far is sustainable, given that interest rates are ratcheting up at 0.5% every couple of months?
I think there's no question. I think the quality and nature of the companies that we're seeing, the depth of management, the histories of the company, the quality companies that we're talking to. So I think it is sustainable, certainly for a period going forward.
And if you turn away a number of companies, what proportion would that be? What proportion would you actually reject?
David, it's around 30% that don't get through the advisory committee. And that is, it's just irrelevant to the size of the company. We've turned away companies with market capitalizations of 150 million rand. We've turned away companies with market capitalizations of 15 million rand.
And what's the main reason?
A couple of things. Certainly depth of management, certainly prospects going forward, sector, the sustainability of the business, the expertise and experience of management. It depends.
Now, in the past, it was quite a good idea to cobble together 3 or 4 companies, put them into one vehicle and list them. Are you on your guard against that?
Very much so. In fact, we do not want to see sticky tape and chewing gum stuck together type listings. If the guys have not had experience working with each other, at least for one financial reporting period, certainly from an Altex perspective, we're going to be very skeptical about, I don't think they will get through the advisory committee process, and would probably end up with a recommendation that says, guys, get one financial period under your belt, come back to us, we'll reassess in a year's time.
There have been some fantastic performers. African Dawn,
incredible.
Data Pro, OneLogix, ESOR, and of course, Wern.
Yep.
Superb performers. And interestingly enough, a lot of them in civil engineering, construction, and otherwise, I suppose you say ITC, those type of areas. Are those the hottest sectors for the Altex at the moment?
It's an interesting one. I mean, most people think that most of the companies that come to Altex are construction related. But construction is the second biggest sector on Altex, the biggest being services. And I mean, that's a whole conglomeration of companies mixed into that sector. But there are a whole host of companies.
Okay. There have been a number of disappointments. Do you have any regrets about having let some of these through?
David, no. You have to have some failures in order to have success. We're not perfect. We never will be perfect. When the companies present to the Altex Advisory Committee, they present with bona fides. We have to accept those bona fides. We hope that they're going to do the best they can do. Some of them aren't going to fly like the rest.
I think you've also had some pretty serious main board listings.
Absolutely.
I think we added up, there were 9 this year, right?
Correct.
And they added up to, I think they were 25 billion, those 9.
Right.
Some big names like Mondi and Human.
Yep.
By the way, both of which disappointed.
Absolutely. Very interesting.
What do you think about that?
Again, I don't think it's about size. I think it's about fundamentals. I think it's about belief in the sector. It's about management. Whatever methodology you use to do your analysis, size is just a relative indicator.
I suppose in both cases they were unbundling, and the companies didn't really give anyone a steer as to what the immediate prospects were.
Correct.
I think that was a bit of a problem.
Correct.
For those two.
Whereas with the smaller guys, you do have a clear direction and a clear focus.
And then the great success would be Robex. I mean, now worth, is it 5 billion?
Something to that effect. Austro, another one.
Austro is enormous.
Absolutely.
So,
small,
those companies,
well.
we're looking for the next Imperial or the next Investec. Do you think we'll see them from among this group?
I think you will.
And tell me, are there a lot of new listings lining up?
The pipeline is deep and quality at the moment. We've seen a number of...
How many proposals do you have on your desk?
David, if I just take those companies that have been through the Altex Advisory Committee,
Yeah.
and are in the process of submitting documentation to the listings division. There must be at least another between 10 and 15 companies that still have to come to market. And we're also seeing, I'm probably receiving 2 to 3 business plans a week.
Okay, but in the end, if this market outperforms upwards, is it going to outperform downwards?
Market will decide that.
I mean, would you say they're high beta by their nature?
I think they are, by their nature. Small to medium-sized businesses, they're certainly sector-specific. So I would imagine that in a downturn, they would probably follow their big brother sector. To the same extent, I don't know.
No, Greenhill, thank you very much for that.
Pleasure, David.
And I guess it's time for all of us to do our homework on all these new listings and to establish for ourselves that they are, in fact, a good bet.